Hey everyone, today we're diving into a suspense story that will definitely keep you in stitches. Humbert learned his daughter left with a stranger and thought, oh no, terrible. He ran to the kitchen, finding it empty. Subtitles, only the dull bouquet he sent lay on the floor. He then asked around for Lolita until he met a cop. He searched hotels like a madman, vowing not to miss any clue. When guests with girls appeared, Humbert scrutinized them. When he spotted the New Year's Eve entry in the registry, he was thrilled as if discovering a new land, but searching was like finding a needle in a haystack. All his efforts sank without a trace, until 3 years later he finally received a desperate letter from Lolita. The letter said she had gotten married and was expecting, but life was so tough that they were struggling to pay the bills. She hoped Dad could send a few $100 to bail them out. If it was too much, a couple of hundred would do. Humbert could hardly contain his excitement, so the next day he headed to the address in the letter. When he saw Lolita again, his heart was a mix of feelings. The youthful vibrancy and sass seemed to have been sneakily stolen away. She was no longer the vivacious, sexy girl from before. Years of hardship had seemingly washed away her sparkle. She looked like a fragile autumn leaf, dull and withered, yet Humbert's love for her was as intense as ever. She was still hung up on the past, trying to figure out who had crashed their happy little party. Under Humbert's probing questions, Lolita finally spelled about the mysterious man she met at the hotel. The way she described him, it sounded like he had a heart of stone, claiming to be a writer. In reality, he was just a creep who loved making amateur films. Lolita stood her ground and refused to film, and before long, he was shown the door. When she recounted this experience, her face was eerily calm, as if she were discussing someone else's story. Lolita, does this old car really ring a bell for you? I think I can take 25 steps and make sure those steps are flawless. Humbert hoped to patch things up with Lolita. Even if she said no, she was still willing to hand him the $4,000, just wanting him to have an easier life ahead. Sure enough, Lolita took the money, ignoring his loving gaze. Before leaving, she said casually, "Could you possibly forget what we used to do? Yeah, I'd have to step out the window for that." Humbert suddenly felt as if Lolita had transformed back to her 14-year-old self. Her bright red lips stood out especially in the sunlight. She smiled and waved goodbye. The scene felt dreamlike yet heavily tinged with sadness. She didn't head home directly. Instead, she decided to take matters into her own hands and end that creep's life. To her, this man was the villain who tore apart her connection with Lolita. Before his demise, he claimed he was impotent and had never harmed Lolita, nor had he forced her into anything. It all boiled down to Lolita's own choices, and Humbert just couldn't accept that reality. She firmly believed Lolita was seduced by sweet talk, and killing this man was her redemption, thinking justice had finally arrived. But the truth was harsh. Now she finally understood it was all just her own fantasy. After the man was shot, he staggered like a drunken fool, blood streaming down as he lay on the bed. Before he kicked the bucket, he curled up in pristine white sheets, much like how Lolita had slept in countless little motels. After ending it all, Humbert drove along the highway like a lost soul, his gaze vacant and confused, with several police cars hot on his tail. He seemed blissfully unaware of their presence and eventually parked his car by a herd of cows, wandering to the mountainside to gaze at the distant town. That was the place where Lolita was, and thus the story comes to an end right here. Subtitles: Humbert died in prison, and Lolita also passed away due to complications during childbirth. This illicit love affair ultimately ended with the deaths of both the leading characters. This unfortunate tale, based on the novel Lolita published in 1955, comes to a close. Due to its unique and sensitive subject matter, it stirred up quite a controversy at the time. However, once it was officially published, it quickly shattered expectations. Not long after, it became a bestseller and was adapted into black and white film in 1962, hitting the big screen for the first. Today, we recommend the 1997 version, retranslated in China as A Pear Tree Over a Begonia. This lust-filled film appears beautiful at first glance, but on closer inspection, it's actually quite uncomfortable, hiding deeper metaphors beneath. In the film, Alu hops over Humbert's leg and accidentally steps on his pant leg. Then she takes the initiative to sit on his lap for a chat, looking like it's the most blatant flirtation ever. Some might say, there's a teenage girl here, but really, who even is that? Others might argue that teenage girls don't understand adult emotions, yet yearn to be recognized for their love. They are pros at playing with emotions, from innocent garden touches to sweet kisses. Lolita revels in the thrill of the forbidden. All the audience assumes Humbert is the passive one, but in reality, the story unfolds from the male lead's perspective. Beautifying his crimes along with his misdeeds and ugliness are made to seem noble through his subjective lens of self-indulgence. In the film, lipstick symbolizes world acceptance. The lead applies it through his gaze. So, seeing all of this, you can fathom how twisted his perspective is. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, folks.